We're now pleased to be joined by WFUV's very own New York Giants beat reporter, Brij Gautam. Brij, how you doing today, my friend?
Doing great. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. It has been one jam-packed show. We've talked NFL, we've talked NBA, but we're right back at NFL. More specifically, let's talk about those New York Giants. They're going to the NFL playoffs for the first time since 2016. Slaughtered the Indianapolis Colts last week, 38-10. Daniel Jones is very good in that one, 19 of 24, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Giants now 9-6-1 in what can only be described as a culture year, Brij. As someone that's been there week over week, out at East Rutherford, what can you say about the momentum swing you've seen with the Giants?
Well, I'll say this first. Sunday, a banner day for Daniel Jones. 2 passing touchdowns in the first half, 2 running touchdowns in the second half. He's done it all, and it's what he's been doing all season long. You know, the big question coming into this season was, is Daniel Jones the guy? Is he your franchise quarterback? And a lot of people were out on him. A lot of people were saying, it's year one of the Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen administration. Let's tank. Joe Schoen's going to draft some great players. Let's tank. Let's get a quarterback in the next draft. No. Brian Daboll's going to do the same thing he did in Buffalo with Josh Allen, who wasn't amazing in his rookie year. Let's remember, Josh Allen was not, oh my God, this is the greatest player ever, the way we see him now. You look at what he did over the years as offensive coordinator in Buffalo. Last year with the Bills. The Bills were 13 seconds away from going to the AFC Championship. Of course, Patrick Mahomes did some Patrick Mahomes-type activities, but that's a discussion for another time. But what Brian Daboll can do is he can develop talent, and he made Daniel Jones into not just a competent quarterback, I would say a relatively good quarterback with not a lot of weapons to work with. And then back to what you were asking, Colin, how did the culture shift? Well, it starts with the coaching, because you look at this group of players, not so different from last year. The few that were different, you think about rookie Kayvon Thibodeau, whose impact has been amazing. You look at Evan Neal, who's still developing as a tackle. But other than that, it's really just guys coming back. Saquon Barkley, who should be the comeback player of the year. He over 1,300 rushing yards this season. Using players the right way and winning hard-nosed, gritty football games. That's what the Giants are all about this season. 8 of their victories have been one-score games. And this past Sunday was a little different. They won 38-10, which honestly is not what you would expect from the Giants, but it's amazing to have a statement win like this toward the end of the year. And the playoffs were not to be expected this season. Nobody thought this was going to happen. So they're already ahead of where they're going to be. So even if they don't make a deep run in the playoffs, that's okay. You weren't even supposed to be here.
Will, I don't know about you. I didn't expect the Giants to be here at all. To your point, Brij, I thought maybe 4-5 wins.
Right.
That was even generous back in September, if you were to say that, right?
Yeah, that's fair. I think definitely coming into this year, considering the fact that there's a pretty loaded draft class in terms of quarterbacks, the Giants might have gone that route. But I think Brian Daboll said, hey, let's put our heads down. And then now they're at this point, and they said, look up. And look where they are. I mean, it's amazing. They lose Sterling Shepard in that Week 3 game against the Cowboys.
Tough one.
I mean, everyone probably thought the season was done after that.
I remember when that happened, everyone was like, who is Daniel Jones going to throw the football to now? And my point was...
They trade Tony.
And that
they trade Tony. They have this young man, Wan'Dale Robinson, who...
ACL.
Tears his ACL.
Mm-hmm.
They have... You know, it's funny. I saw the other day. It's quick verbal meme real quick. It said... Hey, I want me a man that don't play, and it was just a picture of Kenny Galladay.
Yeah, well, he only needs 78 catches this Sunday to get his bonus.
To get that
$750,000
bonus. Yeah, but I think that this team was riddled with injuries. Brian Daboll said, "Hey, we're like you said, we're not supposed to be here. We're not supposed to be above 500. Let's shock the world. Let's keep shocking them." And then they eventually got here. They looked up and said, "All right, if we beat the Colts this Sunday, this is it." I was there. I was at the game in the crowds as a fan. The environment. It's unbelievable, Rich.
It was an amazing environment, especially on New Year's Day. Everyone was out the night before. It didn't matter. They were there at 1 p.m. It was the best crowd I've seen all season long. And like you said, they won big, and the Giants started the season off really well. And everyone was saying, are they frauds? Is it a product of the schedule they're playing? They start 6-2, 7-2 actually. They go through this stretch middle to late of the season where they start to fall apart a little bit. There's doubters coming in. They lose a game to the Lions. And at that point, you were thinking, the Lions were not that they weren't good at that point, but that their record didn't indicate how good they were. The Lions have obviously gone on a huge run and are now playing for the playoffs potentially tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So they lose to the Lions. They lose a tough one to the Cowboys. They tie with Washington, and then they get blown out by the Eagles. So they don't get a win in 4 straight weeks, and then they lose it, and then they actually beat the Commanders on Sunday Night Football, and that was the big turnaround for the season, in my opinion, because that game was flexed to Sunday night. Daniel Jones had never won a primetime football game. To win that on the road, a little controversy with the 4th and goal play, but enough calls had gone against the Giants where you just have to live with that. That's football. The refs can't see everything. And to get that win, and then you lose by 3 on the road against the Vikings, a team that you're likely going to see in the first round of the playoffs. Very close game on a 61-yard field goal, no less, and that's not a kick that most kickers can even make. And then they stun the Colts, not even stun, but they blow them out. I mean, the Colts aren't a very good team, but to win by 28 points is a big deal if you're the New York Giants.
Huge. And I think I like our chances playing the Vikings
I do too.
in the postseason.
Yeah.
This is the team that lacks momentum. They're exactly what you want to see as a 3 seed when you get into that 6 seed as the Giants.
Love it.
They're minus 29-point differential in the last 4 games.
Yep.
Which you get these teams coming in and they're not hot, and it's just like, okay, they're not the real deal. The Vikings are not the real deal at the moment. Worst case scenario, we play the Niners. Niners have won 9 straight games, the complete opposite.
That is a worst case scenario.
And they're averaging 30 points per game in that span. Also, consider this, the plane ride to Minnesota, 3 hours. The plane ride over to San Francisco, 6 hours.
Yep.
So I think we got a way better chance against the Vikings, and we showed it a few weeks ago when we lost on a 61-yard fluke field goal by Brij Gautam. I mean,
seriously.
Yeah.
You look at the Giants too, to your point, Minnesota's a lot closer and they're only an hour behind. You feel a lot more comfortable playing in that building in an indoor stadium. Obviously, San Francisco's not very cold, but to go all the way out there, out west. Look, Giants fans travel well. They will travel for the playoffs, but a West Coast trip is a lot different than a quick flight to the Midwest, if we're being honest here. I think a lot more fans will show out in Minnesota, and they are the likely opponent. Minnesota would have to win and San Francisco lose this week, which I think is very unlikely. And when you look at the Vikings as a whole, they have a couple bad losses. Their loss to the Cowboys in particular, 40-3, was a big oh boy, is this team for real? Is this team for not? I think it's going to come down to what time is this game being played. Is it going to be 1 o'clock? Is it going to be 8 o'clock? That'll determine the play of quarterback Kirk Cousins, and I think that'll really impact the game.
So not to put you on the spot here,
Sure.
but I'm going to do it.
All right.
If it's Giants-Vikings, we're liking the Giants, assuming it's a primetime night game and not like a 1 o'clock deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're thinking here.
I think so.
Okay, Will, where are we on this one?
if we're saying primetime,
If we're saying primetime,
I think that the Giants, like they did in that Commanders win, will absolutely show out. Brian Dable will say, "This is it, boys." I mean, we're gonna throw all the chips on the table here, and Kirk Cousins, I think it's a known secret in the NFL that he's not too good in primetime. So I'm gonna have to go with the Giants there. What do you guys think the spread will be?
I'd probably think Minnesota by a field goal.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what it was, right? 2 weeks ago.
Maybe 3.5. Yeah.
it might go up depending on when the game is slated.
that
That's actually a great point.
Vegas will
Yeah.
surely pay attention to that. I would think, field goal, maybe 3.5. Who knows? It could be interesting. But if the Giants do get past the Vikings, it's likely the Philadelphia Eagles that they'll see in the divisional round, and it'll be at the Link. Now that's a game that's going to be a lot tougher.
Mm-hmm.
How good will Saquon have to be for them to win that type of game? Because I can't see Daniel Jones necessarily generaling them all the way to the finish line. He's been good this year, but he's not Mahomes or Brady or Rodgers, et cetera, et cetera.
There's only so much he can do. He has been great this season. I mean, obviously he hasn't been Mahomes, whatever, right? You don't expect that. Saquon Barkley will need 100 yards. You're going to need a big touchdown. You're going to need some breakaway runs because in the passing game, there is only so much you can do. When you look at the lockdown corners Philly has, an old friend of the Giants, James Bradbury's there, Darius Slay. Those are some guys you don't want to be throwing the ball to them. Daniel Jones does not throw the deep ball very well. He throws these bootleg, pass over the middle, Bellinger, get 8 yards there, scramble up the middle. They do a lot of different things. If the Giants are going to win that game, it starts with the run game. You got to pound the rock, control the football. And then defensively, it also depends. Jalen Hurts will likely play. He's been hurt the last 3 weeks. All factors indicate that he will play, but will his injury and the fact that he hadn't maybe played in a while, will that impact his play? Will he be less comfortable? Who knows? But that remains to be seen.